Josh from barnfinds.com here today, looking at a 1972 Triumph GT6. So this is a fairly late GT6. If you don't know a lot about these cars, the GT6 is based on the same car as the Spitfire, but it's a coupe, and it's got an inline 6 in it instead of the little inline 4. So this car is owned by one of our buddies here in Boise. He runs a restoration business. This was one of his projects he just never had time to get to himself. Unfortunately, he's moving to a different state, and so he's got to get rid of some of his cars. So we offered to help him find a new home for this GT6. It runs and drives. It needs work, but you can hop in it. It fires up, runs. The brakes are probably the worst part. They're kind of spongy. Engine's going to need a tune-up. It's been sitting for a while, but it runs. The biggest thing with the engine is just the carbs are not quite set how they should be, but that's not a huge issue. It's got Strombergs. They're pretty simple. The other area that's going to need a lot of attention is the interior. We'll take a look at that in a second. But we're going to go out for a drive in it today so you can see how it runs and drives. It's a pretty cool car, actually. Pop the hatch here, so you got a nice little hatch area for extra storage that a Spitfire doesn't have. We didn't get a ton of them here in the States with it, but there was an optional rear seat too. They called the occasional seat, which does make it a little more usable if you got little kids. Mostly just kind of cool to have. This does not have the occasional seat though. It's just a standard car. Before I close that, point out, it looks like the carpets have been replaced. It's got a set of rubber floor mats that are newer, and a pair of door panels, but they don't look like they're the right year of door panel. It looks like maybe they're for a different year car. They line up with the door, but the openings are not quite right. You might be able to fiddle with them and get them to work. I don't know. I have some photos of those on the site if you want to take a closer look at that. The paint, I did a little test spot here to see how it would polish up, and it looks like the paint might actually polish out if you worked on it a little bit. You'd have to be careful. There's some like chips in spots popping on the roof, and then there's some bubbling. I want to say, I think it's on the other side. Let's take a look at that real quick. Yeah, there's some bubbling right there in that quarter. Overall, it's not too bad. Let's take a look at the engine though, because that's where things get really cool on this one. So the GT6 was powered by a 2-liter inline 6 that was actually related to the engine used in the TR250, TR5, and TR6. They weren't really interchangeable though until 1973, and the TR6 engine was updated, and it'll bolt right in. Well, I shouldn't say it'll bolt right in. It needs a few changes made for it to bolt in, but it's not a huge task. I mean, it's a lot of work, but you're not modifying a bunch of stuff to make it work. Motor mounts line up. The biggest things you have to change, the oil pan from the GT6 is 2-liter, has to be installed on the TR6 engine. And you got to kind of pound it out a little bit to make room for the crank, because this is a longer stroke engine. It's a 2.5-liter instead of a 2-liter. And then the other thing you got to do is use the GT6's intake, because the fender liner comes pretty close there to the carbs anyways. If you try to use the TR6 intake, the carbs will be in the way. You won't be able to shut the clamshell. It looks though like an air cleaner would still fit in there. It's missing the air cleaner, so that's something you're gonna have to get. The previous owner, before the seller had bought the car, is the one that did the swap. And I mean, they did an okay job. They upgraded the radiator, which is actually a big plus. These had really small radiators, especially for a 6-cylinder engine. So they installed a much larger radiator with an electric fan, as well as the original clutch drive or engine driven fan. So it stays nice and cool. The engine runs, honestly, it runs really good considering it's been sitting. It was leaking some oil down here at the filter, the remote housing. for the oil filter. I went ahead and just tightened up the hoses. That fixed the leaks. It was also dumping a lot of fuel when... Okay. All right, I'm going to close up that. I'm going to go ahead and close up that bonnet, and we're going to take this out for a drive. Here it's going lean on that back carb. I'm guessing it just needs the float adjusted more. Kind of just threw it back in there with a different float, so it wasn't dumping fuel everywhere and we could drive it. But give it a little choke and it gives it a little more fuel and then it runs better. So it's a little chilly out this morning too, so I mean it might need a little bit of choke, but shouldn't need a ton.